Time to review a film that got better over time.
Those were up, and they did.
We're smart, and my...
He told me enough.
No, I.
Here's Chuck.
Hey everyone, it's Don J. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review, and this movie review is going to be for the very first film in another cinematic universe that was launched after the success of the MCU, a film that came out nearly 10 years ago, and was the first of this of a very controversial cinematic universe that was either loved by people or hated by way too many people. And that film, obviously, is going to be for none other than 2013's reboot of the Caped Crusader, Man of Steel, directed by Zack Snyder, the first film of the now cancelled Snyderverse. What's the plot of this? Well, a young boy learns that he has extraordinary powers and is not of this earth. As a young man, he journeys to discover where he came from and what he was sent here to do. But the hero in him must now emerge if he is to save the world from annihilation and become the symbol of hope for all of mankind. How was this film made? Well, we all know when Superman Returns was released in 2006, it did not succeed at the box office, and was mixedly received. So, because of its bad performance at the box office, any plans for a follow-up to Superman Returns were scrapped. And it was time for Warner Bros. That took pitches from comic book writers, screenwriters, and directors on how to successfully reboot the film series again, with a new lead. Comic book writers Grant Morrison, Mark Waid, Geoff Johns, and Brad Meltzer were among those who pitched their ideas for a reboot. They told them it wasn't bad, they just treat Superman Returns as the only Hulk, Morrison said, and Waid said the Incredible Hulk was proven the audience will forgive you and let you redo the franchise. Morrison's idea was similar to their work on All-Star Superman, while Waid's was akin to Superman Birthright. Mark Miller, teaming with director Matthew Vaughn, planned an epic 8-hour Superman trilogy. Each installment released a year apart, similar to Lord of the Rings. Miller compared it to the Godfather trilogy, which would chronicle the entire life of Superman from the early days of Krypton, where little Kal-El witnesses his father's tireless struggle to save the planet, to the finale, where Superman loses his powers as the sun starts to go supernova. According to Miller, Vaughn suggested his Stardust actor Charlie Cox as a Golden Age-inspired Superman, where he was a bit more of a regular person. Then in August 2008, Warner Bros. Suggested a reboot of the series. Studio executive Jeff Robinette planned to have the film released either by 2010 or 2011, explained that since Superman Returns didn't work as a film in the way they wanted it to, it didn't position the character in the way they needed to be positioned. As Superman worked in 2006, we would have had a movie for Christmas of this year or 2009. And now the plan was just to reintroduce Superman without regard to a Batman and Superman movie at all. Paul Levesque stated in an interview that Batman holds the key to the Superman reboot, and he elaborated that everyone was waiting for Nolan to sign on for another Batman. Once it happens, the release date for Superman and all other future projects will follow. Then in February 2009, MCG, who previously planned to direct Superman Flyby, expressed interest in returning to the Superman franchise. In August 2009 saw a court ruling which Jerry Siegel's family recaptured 50% of the rights to Superman Origins and Siegel's share of the copyright in Action Comics #1. In addition, a judge ruled that Warner Bros. Did not owe the families additional royalties from previous films. However, if they did not begin production of a new Superman film by 2011, the Siegel estate would have been able to sue for lost revenue of an unproduced film. And the plot of Man of Steel employs a non-layered narrative and tells parts of the story through flashbacks. During story production discussions of The Dark Knight Rises in 2008, David S. Goyer told Christopher Nolan his ideas regarding how to present Superman in a modern context. Impressed with Goyer's concept, Nolan pitched the idea to his studio, who hired Nolan to produce and Goyer to write based on the financial and critical success of The Dark Knight. Nolan admired Bryan Singer's work on Superman Returns for its connection to Richard Donner's version, and even stated a lot of people had approached Superman in a lot of different ways. He only knew the way that was worked for them and what they think that he knows how to do. emphasizing the idea that Batman exists in a world where he is the only superhero, and a similar approach to the Man of Steel would assure the integrity needed for the film. Nolan, however, clarified the new film would not have any relationship with the previous film series. He even commented that each serves the internal logic of the story, and they have nothing to do with each other. So after the film was shot and marketed, and they obviously got Zack Snyder to come direct the film, who had some success with 300 and Watchmen. Man of Steel then premiered at Alice Tilly Hall on June 10th, 2013, and was released in the United States on June 14th, 2013. Critics were mixed on it. They felt the film's visually appealing action sequences were not enough to overcome its descent to generic blockbuster territory, and some either loved or didn't like Cavill's performance as Superman. And it grossed over $668 million worldwide, became the ninth highest grossing film of 2013, and it didn't really receive a direct sequel, but it did receive a follow-up called Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, which I already reviewed in March 2016. I already reviewed that movie. While a direct sequel, under various stages of development since 2014, was cancelled, as we all know. Now, as for my reaction to this movie. Well, yeah, I remember not being too fond of this film when I first saw it, but as the years have progressed and worse superhero movies came out, especially today, I ended up starting to like this movie way more, and now it's my third favorite Superman movie ever. Am I one of the few people that actually loves this movie? Yes, I am. Okay? Some Ramble Rap for Life fans can get all pissed at me for liking the Snyderverse, but I enjoy it because it doesn't treat DC as a joke like Marvel today is. Man of Steel has beautiful visuals, an amazing cast ensemble, and action scenes to blow you away. I do agree this movie could be better, like Lois being more believable and it not being so loud, but overall it's a really good movie. Henry is easily the second best Superman behind Christopher Reeve. And I grew up watching Christopher Reeve as Superman, and it would be impossible to watch anyone else as Superman. Henry has the perfect look, has the perfectly personality, being humble, intelligent, and level-headed, and just comes across as super. Superman's always been the rarest of superheroes in that he overcomes his heroic problem, his inner conflict with the singular decision to always do right and protect the Earth. He surpasses other superheroes in this regard because it is not an ongoing conflict. He resolves it everlastingly in one checkmate movie. The film captures that epic choice with clarity and precision. Henry Cavill even does more than shine. He glistens. In this role that was from his birth, watching the movie, you feel him with all the pain, sacrifice, and triumph of Superman's story, and I've never been so moved by a superhero. Like, I've heard people say that Superman is too good, and they prefer the dynamic superheroes who walk a line between good and bad, but I find that Superman is refreshingly absolute in a world established by various shades of gray. Like, when the trailers of this movie were released in a so effective way that you start to fear if the product will fill your expectations, and with the visual critics know about everything, nothing is good. But to me, reviews, the chances of being confused about this were increasing at the time of this release. As high as the expectations were raised after the trailers, I did tell you that I think I can say it did disappoint me at first, but I've grown to like it over time. Indifferent in many ways to the usual superhero movies, but it's a solid product that fits you in what you expect from this kind of film. Nice references to previous movies are well executed, and new plot additions are well received too. You can expect from a Zack Snyder movie, there are several scenes that try to resemble graphic novel arts that in my opinion are very well made. And some of the nicest things about this movie is the way they made the fast moving scenes. But most of them, well, I can't really say all of them, they look very realistic according to laws of physics, and CGI is so well made that you wish that development for many movies you've seen before. The movies are what you expect in such a nice kind of people exist in reality. And about the plot, I believe this is a more controversial point from what I see in reviews across the internet. Like, most moviegoers liked it a lot, but are critics the ones that are giving it were giving it mixed reviews? And critics clearly expected another Dark Knight, but this movie's not looking to be a darker one of your beloved Superman. Like, you're smart enough to understand that this is not another hero you'll be happy with this story. Like, if you're looking for a fourth darker than Batman movie for sure, you'll agree with critics getting bad reviews. Like, this is a Superman movie, and in that scenario, it's actually a pretty good one. In fact, if I had to rank him, I think it's the third best behind the Superman the movie from 1978, and behind the Richard Donner cut. And second place would be the Richard Donner cut. And this would be third place. And I like this movie's much more serious than the other Superman movies. Like, this isn't Superman Returns serious. Like, this is, the shizzle just got real serious. Like, people were complaining how dark and serious this was, but with all the events happening in this movie, it would be highly inappropriate to have jokes thrown in it. There is so much death and violence. This movie also has a lot of action, and many people say it's over the top. It damn well should be. This is like hands down the best portrayal of Superman's capabilities in any movie we've seen so far. Like Henry Cavill actually knew how to play Superman. I did like Christopher Reeve, but this guy is definitely second best. Amy Adams, alright as Lois Lane. Well, and I wish her character did grow in future films. The rest of the cast is still good though. Zod, though different from Stamp, is pretty fierce, and this Zod is definitely much more menacing. The action scenes were awesome. The speed and power SM and the Kryptonians were awesome and done really well. The scale of destruction, the feeling that there was something that at stake was met. Like compared to the latest Marvel films, and they have to become paint by numbers, so you never really feel the world's in danger or the world even cares anymore. Like Henry Cavill was an outstanding Clark Kent. His portrayal was on point, charismatic, fragile but strong, charming but menacing, and the storyline was very fragmented, but his character was made out to be a lot more interesting and less cheesy than other films, even though it still had its flaws. And for General Zod, well, I was excited to see a villain that could rival Superman and a break from the overused Lex Luthor, but he was too much for the first film. And why do I say this? His character was developed kind of poorly, and his dialogue sounded very similar to that of many other villains we have seen before. And despite that, the final fight scene was pretty memorable, and you get what you expect. Like, two titans go at it for a good amount of time. If their fighting does not pump your adrenaline, like, definitely should check your pulse. The movie even unleashes the potent side of Superman dynamically by capitalizing location's origin of the protagonist and relationship with enemies. The highlight of the movie is undeniably the battle scenes, and they're marvelously captured and well performed by a group of endeavored cast. And of course, great amount of efforts are contributed by fervent and conscientious visual effects department that managed to depict the powerlessness of Man of Steel. An impeccable camera angle is also a key to success of the film that even makes exposition scenes look so connected and interesting. However, like no matter what kind of movie you watch, there's always at least one weakness you discover in your eye, and most of them end up being personal, subjective, and imperceptible. I personally spot on the power of villains as inconsistent and balanced as they miss a few opportunities of getting a full control of the Superman by not exercising their authority in a timely fashion, as if the director fails to find a better way to bail significant characters out. However, does this movie have bad qualities? Well, yeah. As for the bad qualities, like I've mentioned, General Zod is kind of mediocre as a villain. I feel like more could have been done with Lois Lane here. Heck, I even wish we could have saw more scenes of Clark's dad in this movie as well during the childhood scenes. Like the second half of the movie is an incoherent mess of disjointed plot and non-stop screaming and explosions. There's only so many times I need to see glass shatter and buildings crumble. Like I get the points. I felt there was very little character development in any of the other characters besides Superman himself. I feel like had someone stripped away all the CGI in action, the resulting film wouldn't have been up to much. This doesn't mean I'm taking away the merits of the cast and crew accomplished in the epic action sequences, because they really did take my breath away, but in the words of another critic, less could easily have been more. I felt the final standoff could have been easily halved or even cut altogether, and the film would not have lost anything. Like, by the end of it, the huge action scenes become somewhat a little dull, because I felt like I've already seen enough of them. And this is just one of the things I loved about the Dark Knight trilogy. There's a fine line between character-driven moments of action, a line which Nolan fit perfectly, and one that I feel Snyder did not. I suppose that's what to be expected from a director like Snyder, whose other films before this did revolve a lot of other action sequences. And it seems weird I'm comparing the Dark Knight trilogy to Man of Steel, but it's kind of hard not to. But anyway, despite those bad qualities, Man of Steel was the perfect start for the potential phenomenon that could have been the Snyderverse had Warner Brothers stayed out of the way. But no, they had to interfere with all the money problems, and this universe is never going to happen again. This universe is now dead. But whatever. In the end, Man of Steel is the perfect watch and buy for all DC and Superman fans out there that want to see a refreshing start for the character after the failure of Superman Returns at the box office. Anyway, that's it for my review of Man of Steel. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Man of Steel, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you want to see how this potential rival of the MCU kicked off, then I would easily recommend watching this movie, then buying it and adding it to your collection for sure. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Man of Steel, I'm going to give Man of Steel an 8.5 out of 10. There we go. That wraps up my review for Man of Steel. So, you're probably all wondering, of course, what's going to be the next review? Well, I'm still going to review the other DCU films I haven't reviewed, but I'm not going to review Batman vs. Superman. I already reviewed that movie last year. I'm not going to review Suicide Squad 2016. I thankfully reviewed that 2 years ago, so I thankfully don't have to review it again. I am going to review Wonder Woman as well. Justice League, the shitty Joss Whedon cut we don't speak of. Aquaman, unfortunately, I also have to rewatch. Yeah, guys, I hated Aquaman. Sorry. And then, of course, I'll also be reviewing Shazam, though, which I did like. So, yeah. But, till then, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank y'all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, and don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.